Hi, I'm Kelton Wells here with Lauren Steinbrecher for PBS Utah at the Utah State Capitol, where the 2026 legislative session has officially kicked off.
And we sat down with Governor Spencer Cox to talk about his top priorities heading into the session.
We'll start with housing affordability. That's one of your top priorities this year and was a huge focus during last year's session. But as we saw last year, many bills faced challenges. Some were stripped before passing, others didn't move forward. What do you anticipate as far as challenges with tackling that again this year?
It's always a challenge, which is why we haven't solved it yet, but we're certainly getting closer. I appreciate the work of our local municipalities as we're working together to get more approvals for the types of housing that we need in our state. What I think we'll see this year, what I'm hoping for, is a significant increase in funding when it comes to infrastructure. We have tens of thousands, if not more, lots that are permitted, but they're not being built on because there's no infrastructure. And so if we can get funding for infrastructure investment in these areas, we can unlock those lots in powerful ways that will help, again, our kids and grandkids be able to afford a home. And so that's really our focus right now, is where can we get the biggest bang for the buck, literally, and the legislature seems interested in going down that path.
Anything you hope to put back on the table that maybe surfaced last year but didn't go through?
No, I think we'll see some variations on some things that didn't make it all the way through, but really the focus is on working with our municipalities to get done what they're hoping to achieve with the growth, and growing in the right ways, growing in the smart ways. That's what we're focused on.
Now let's talk about energy, your priorities. What do you want to see this year? We saw a lot of bills last year. What do you think needs to happen this year?
Yeah, so those bills are still being implemented, and we're grateful. There may be a couple tweaks as we're implementing. We find some things that maybe we got wrong that we can improve on. So there will be a little bit of that for sure. We're working on critical minerals, which is important to the energy process. So you'll see a couple bills focused on unlocking critical minerals in the state, trying to make permitting much easier for companies that are coming in and accessing those critical minerals, so we're not relying on China and other global adversaries. We can do that work here, and that will make us safer and make energy cheaper for everyone.
Cost of living is huge, huge priority. I know the House Majority Caucus listed that as a big thing, along with strong families. What can the state do to help lower costs for Utah families and reduce barriers?
Yeah, we're working very closely with them. I mean, again, the big one, if you look at the cost of living over the past 5 years in the state of Utah, the number one driver is housing. That's the big one. So anything we can do to lower housing is going to lower the cost of living for everyone in the state. That's bigger than gas prices or food prices or anything related to that. Making sure that we have enough water for our lakes, for our farms, for that matters too. So we're going to be working again. We're continuing to work with the federal government, with the state government on making sure that we have enough water available so that we can grow the food that we need. That will help keep food prices down. Those are all important pieces. I know there's a big discussion about the gas tax and what that looks like. So we'll be engaging on that, trying to get that right to see if there's a way. Gas prices are low right now, which is good, but I suspect they'll rise again, and people will be looking for ways to lower that piece. And then energy prices. That's the one that we're so focused on when it comes to nuclear, new energy sources. We had some bills last year as well on that one, but if we can keep energy prices down, Utahns are going to be happy.
You mentioned water, so let's kind of jump over to that. What do you specifically think needs to happen this session with water?
Yeah, well, the biggest piece this session is a little bit out of our hands, and that is the Colorado River work that we're doing. And so I'll be going back to DC to meet with my fellow governors in the Department of Interior towards the end of next week to see what we can do to come to an agreement. That's going to require everybody to conserve more. The hydrology of the river is just not where we thought it was going to be, and so there's a possibility that will lead to some legislation that we'll need to to work to implement, to make sure that we're doing our part as whatever that agreement looks like coming out of it. And then it's implementing what we've already done towards the Great Salt Lake especially. We're committed to preserving the lake. We're working with our agriculture community, again, to see where we can reduce the amount of water that's being used and free up real water to get to the lake. That's going to be critical. The legislature has already done most of the work. The framework's there. We just need to get everybody on board to implement that framework.
Like the water contracts and all that stuff that we saw last year.
And we've had some of those water contracts already being signed. We've had some recent announcement on that. Those are huge and a true benefit to everyone that calls Utah home.
You want the state to set aside some money for the proposed homelessness campus. That's been kind of a controversial topic amongst lawmakers. What do you hope to see with legislation and funding for that this session?
Yeah, so what we're trying to figure out is, what does this look like? What is this model? And we're working with the federal government. We're hoping to get additional funds there. Been back to DC to meet with HUD to talk about their funding streams for what we're trying to do here. It's how do we get people off the street, get them the help that they need to get back on their feet, to become productive members of society. All of those things working together, working with our local partners as well. That's what I'm trying to figure out. We kind of put that number as a placeholder for building this campus out, but figuring out all of the funding streams and seeing what the state's portion of that is going to be, that's where we need to get by the end of this session.
What do you see are the biggest challenges for that campus?
Well, the biggest challenges right now are funding is always going to be a huge challenge, right? These things are not cheap, but we have to do them right. It's going to be interesting to see, again, if we can find the workforce as well. We want to get help to people, but if you don't have the treatment facilities or the people that provide that type of treatment, then that makes it difficult. And then it's just the collective will to say we're going to do this. We have to have the cities, the counties, and the state and our federal partners all working together, and so we've got some great people who are engaged in this. Representative Tyler Clancy, who this will be his last session, and then he'll be coming to work for my administration on homelessness. Specifically, he's going to be running several bills to help to put all this together.
Education listed as a huge priority all around. What kind of investments, you mentioned investments in literacy and student success, but what kind of investments do you want to see help?
Yeah, well, we in our budget, we have some pretty significant funding increases as we do every year. Education is the number one priority for lawmakers, for myself, and that will continue to be the case. We think it's going to be a good funding year. We don't have big budgets like we've had in the past. Those surplus numbers are lower because we have a $300 million tax cut that we're implementing right now that comes from the federal government, but it's a $300 million tax cut on the state side as well. And so maybe not as much as we've had in the past, but that's certainly our number one priority. Literacy, to me, is the most important piece of that. It's the foundation for everything. If you can't read at grade level by third grade, the odds of you succeeding in life go down precipitously, and we want to make sure that doesn't happen for any of our kids.
Really quick, you mentioned the tax cut. I know there's been kind of an income tax cut statewide floated around. Where do you stand on that? Well,
that will depend on what our budget numbers look like when we get towards the end of the session. So we're working off older numbers. We'll have projections for new numbers. If there's money available for a tax cut, I'll be supportive. If there's not, then I won't be. Again, we're already doing $300 million. That's one of the largest tax cuts in our state's history. And so I think we're going to want to be very thoughtful about anything in addition to that.
In addition to this interview, we'll also be covering Governor Cox's State of the State address.
You can find that on the PBS Utah website or on the PBS Utah YouTube channel. And be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram for other updates from the legislative session.